Hello everyone, and welcome to another video where we will install our first Windows server in ESXi. So to do that, we're going to go to our ESXi server, and on the virtual machine we're going to create and register another VM. We're going to call it Windows 2022-01. Actually, I'm going to add server 01. And okay, Windows Server 64-bit. Okay, next. Next. Okay, we're going to leave this at the default settings. We're just going to change this to tape provision again. We're going to put it in the business net, and for our CD drive, we're going to use our Windows Server ISO image. Select, next, and finish. Okay, now we have our Windows Server VM created. It's time to install it. So to do that, press play and enter, and the process is now started. Okay, let's choose language to install. Okay, choose Canada for myself. US. Okay, next. Install now. And the install process is now starting. Okay, we're going to install the desktop experience. Standard with desktop experience. Okay, next. Once again, custom, next. And the install process is now started, so I'm going to speed up that later on. Okay, so the install is now complete, so the computer will restart now, or VM. Okay, let's set up our admin account first. And Windows Server is now installed. You will notice that there are not a lot of services running on this server just yet. So we are going to do a couple of things first. So let's start by, once this is actually booted up, let's start by installing VMware tools. So go here and install VMware tools. It may take a little bit of time to do just that, but because we only dedicated just a little bit of RAM to the VM, so okay. So I don't know if I talked about VMware tools in the previous videos. So this is just software that allows the VM to communicate with the ESXi server properly, and it also installs drivers for certain certain hardware components that are part of the VM. So you may have noticed that there is no network interface working. Let's check that out. Even though we assigned a network interface to it. Oh, there is one. But we may have to assign an IP address to it. Okay, let's do that. In the previous versions of Windows, if you assign VMXnet type of network adapter to the VM, Windows would not recognize it without the proper driver. So uh, they may have included those drivers with Windows Server 2022. So let's do this 1.78 255.255.0 10.1. We're going to use actually this and this. Once again, if you're using your local network for your VM, you'll be assigned an IP address via DHCP, so don't worry about this. But since I'm not, I have to assign it manually because I'm not running DHCP on this subnet. So, okay. So VMware tools are also installed now. So let's go and finish and restart the VM. VMware tools also allow ESXi hosts to better manage the resources because the VM is properly reporting all the hardware usage to the ESXi server. So it is definitely good to have them installed. And if you're running them in VMware console, it also helps with that because you're able to set the resolution properly as well. Because you will notice that the resolution that I'm currently running with is quite low. So if I, without VMware tools, I wouldn't be able to go for all these higher resolutions. Another good thing is that you can also do this, and you will notice that it automatically extends the resolution through the whole window. Without VMware tools, that wouldn't be possible. So one more thing that I like to do before I even start with anything is I actually do this, and I do the rename PC and dot server dot demo dot com. Let me see if I can actually enter the domain name. Yeah, domain name will not be added. So next, and once again, start. Uh, Other planned, continue, and restart the VM. So what are we going to do with this Windows Server? So there's a couple of things that we want to have running on the server. One of them is Active Directory because we want to have a directory of all of our users that we will use later on for different services. And also, we will run DNS server on Windows DNS. And then what we will do is we will use our Linux server as a slave for DNS. So anything that we actually add in our Windows Server DNS will be replicated into our slave DNS on our Linux server. So in case any of them is down at any given moment, we will be able to do DNS resolution. Why do we even want to do DNS resolution? It's simple because if we want to have our services running and we want to have them accessed by name, we definitely want to use DNS instead of just IP addresses because the more services you run, the more difficult it'll become for you to manage all of that. So, and having a DNS server in Windows is actually quite simple. So we'll do that in the next video. Okay, so this is now starting, and I think that most of the main stuff is done, but same as with our Windows 10, what we want to do is we actually want to do an update. So this will take some time. So I'm just going to speed up this video after, during this Windows Update install, and I'll get back to you once everything is installed. So the updates are finally complete. It took quite some time to do that, but now once we have the fully updated system, we can go and continue with installing the services that we want. So to do that, let's go add roles and features to the server. Okay, next, next. So what we want to do is we want to install Active Directory domain services. Okay, click next, 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 and install. Once again, I'm going to speed up this in the video, and I'll come back once this is installed. Okay, so installation is now complete. So let's close this. And minimize this. And now under administrative tools, you should have something called Active Directory users and computers. Before we continue, we want to actually do this. Promote this server to a domain controller. So what does this mean? So uh, I'm not going to go into too many details about domains and all that, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to say to this Windows server that we installed that it is managing our domain, which is called demo.networktechguy.com. So don't confuse the Active Directory domain with a DNS domain. It's not the same. We will manage our DNS domain from the same server, and they will match, which means that both our DNS domain will be demo.networktechguy.com and our AD domain will also be demo.networktechguy.com. Uh, so let's do that. So, okay. So add a domain controller to an existing domain? No. Add a new domain to an existing forest? No. Add a new forest. So we're going to call it demo.networktechguy.com. So the reason for that is because I already have networktechguy.com domain somewhere else, and I'm using demo.networktechguy.com a subdomain to actually do these videos. So in your case, that will definitely be something different from this. Another reason why I want to do this under a subdomain is because I will actually, when we get with the rest of the lab with build a multimedia machine in Docker, virtualizer firewall, and all these other topics that we will cover, uh, we will actually use our DNS domain demo.networktechguy.com to assign DNS names to all those services. And I will also show you how to register this subdomain with DNS on the internet so that you can actually get SSL certificates with your reverse proxy so that you basically have all of your sites responding to HTTPS as well. So let's continue with this. So leave these at defaults. choose your password. I'm not a Windows guy, so I just leave these things on at default settings. So one of the delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found, which means that it can't actually find the DNS server for networktechguy.com, which is the main domain, and demo.networktechguy.com is the subdomain. So I'll just leave this as it is. And we're going to call this domain demo for the NetBIOS name. And basically, the reason why we want to create this Active Directory domain is so that we can actually have all of our users, as I said, in this directory, and we can also add computers to this directory as well. And this will also be beneficial when we want to leverage our directory for other services that we will be using in the next videos. So let's go with this. Okay, next, next, next. Uh, could you go with a different solution instead of Windows Server? Of course, you can go with some other solutions such as Samba Server, or I think it's free IPA. But in, just to keep it simple, we're going to uh, use Windows Server. Once again, I'll come back once this is installed. So Active Directory services have now been installed, and we're going to get logged out of the system, and the computer is being restarted now. And you will notice after we come back that we are no longer going to use a local admin account, but a domain admin account. And that will be uh, identified by the domain name at the beginning of the account or credentials that we're going to use. Okay, and we are back. So as I said before, we have our domain name without the actually it's not a full domain name. It's just the NetBIOS name of the domain, which we chose as demo, and then the backslash username. So we're going to log in as an administrator at this point. Uh, Best practice is not to use an administrator account to administer Windows, but since this is just our lab environment, we can get away with it. Okay, wait for it to boot up. Okay, okay. So now, if we go here and choose Active Directory users and computers, and now we have our domain. So what I like to do is I like to create a new organizational unit that I will call demo users. Okay, and I like to uh, add users under demo users instead of under just users here. Users here are all the default created users when Windows server gets installed. So let's just go and create a user. So I've created my first user, and what I like to do is I like to enable advanced features view. So now if I go here and go under properties, I can actually see an attribute editor. So Now I can actually see different parameters, that attributes that are assigned to the user, that we will need in the future when we will be um, configuring AD authentication for our different services. Okay, so this is basically it, what I wanted to do with a basic Windows Server install. There are other roles and features that can be added to our Windows Server. Uh, but at the moment, we're just going to focus on this ADDS. And we're also going to use the DNS server that is already pre-installed because of the ADDS. And also, we may use the HTTP server. I'll see when we get to the firewall part. Sometimes, depending on the situation, I either use a separate DHCP server on like Windows Server, or um, I will show you how to do that on the firewall itself as well. Uh, Other services are not that interesting at the moment. So you have a web server, but we're not going to use any uh, Windows web server services, so we're not going to install that. Windows Server Update Services is basically like a cache uh, for um, for your Windows updates. If you have a large Windows network and you don't want every single Windows computer to use Windows Update, you can point them to Windows Server as your update server via group policy, if I'm not mistaken. But once again, I'm not a Windows guy, so I don't, I haven't done this for more than 15 years now. So I'm not going to go into that. Remote desktop services, we're not going to do that. Just let me check quickly. Remote desktop settings. Okay, we're just going to allow it, confirm. And we're going to also do one more thing. And mind you, since this is a lab environment, I like to disable the integrated firewalls that are part of the Windows, because I already have a firewall up and running. Demo administrator already has access. Okay, so let's go back to here under demo users. Okay, member of, I'm going to add myself to domain admins, and also I think enterprise admins, I think. Okay, apply, okay, and I'm going to create another user. We're going to call it LDAP search. Password never expire, user can, oh, we're going to leave it like this. Finish, okay. Kill it, kill it. I'm going to sign out here. Okay, and let's see if we can log in as our user we just created. Okay, here it is. So in one of the next videos, I will show you how to add a Windows 10 computer that we installed previously to the domain. Uh, there are certain prerequisites that need to be fulfilled before you can do that. Uh, so we'll do that in the next video. For now, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and see you next time.